Today, we're in the office, and I'm going to be drawing plans. Hello everyone, I'm Richard, and you're watching the Cabinet Wise Workshop. This is Mulder. He hasn't learned how to draw cabinet plans yet. He's tried, but he hasn't got past holding the pencil. So right now I'm going to show how every project is born. On a piece of paper, with a pencil, in my own two hands. I've always enjoyed drafting and drawing. Thought maybe I would be an architect when I was young, but instead I only pretend to be an architect. It's my favorite thing to pretend to be. Let's get back to work now. Let's get to work and back to work. And in later videos, I'll be sure to show these exact same cabinets that you're seeing drawn become a reality, which is just the joy of manufacturing, because you get to see something that didn't exist because you made it. So we're going to draw this in 1.5 inches equals 1 foot scale. 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12. Because I want it to be a little bit blown up. Some people use, half-inch scale equals 1 foot, a lot of architectural plans. But this we want it to be a little bit bigger, because the point of these drawings is for us to build off of. Here's the goal we're looking to achieve today. This is a pantry cabinet sent by a designer. These drawings are often used to illustrate the goal to the client. However, we do not build off of these. As you'll notice, there isn't enough detail to build from. 86.25 inches is our total wall. There we go. And then you come back to the back wall here. And then we have 50 3/8 is the back wall. So we come 50 3/8, 8. So here is our pantry. This is the room. 86.25 by 50 3/8. You want it to be to scale, and the numbers need to be accurate, of course. And if you make a mistake, it's just one of those little happy accidents, and you erase it. I'm pretty sure Bob Ross would actually integrate the happy accidents into the painting, but you don't want to do that, because if you start going the wrong direction and suddenly the measurements aren't adding up, you can't really massage that in and make it suddenly okay. No, it will be a disaster. The accidents are not so happy in this line of work. As we see here, we have 16 inches of depth. We have the door is 17 3/4, 16-inch deep for the cabinet. So there we go. Draw that across. And we're not going all the way because we have a chase in the back corner. It's some ducting in the house. They do not want to move it, so we do have to work around that. So these are the little details you have to take note of. So we have 10 inches by 13 inches. There, we cannot use that space. It is space that we cannot use. So we will not try to use it, because, that's easy to do. It's easy to make that mistake, to try to use space that you don't actually have. Similar to trying to use money that you don't actually have, which people run into that problem all the time, I've heard on Dave Ramsey. 10 by 13, we have 20 inches on this depth. And this cabinet is really just going to sit like that. We're not going to try to use any of this backspace. That's just dead. It does not fit within our design to use it, and we are okay with that in this scenario. There are some times where you try to extract usefulness out of every inch. Sometimes it does not fit within the design, and that's okay. 16. And we have 20 depth here. This is coming together. This sloppy informational sheet is now a clear informational sheet that is a little less sloppy. Actually, in this scenario, we're going to cut the line across right here. So actually, this is just going to be dead space as well. again, does not fit within the design to use that space. 86.25 minus 20. 66 and a quarter. So that's what our cabinet actually is. And then we have 58.375, which is 3/8, minus 16. And that's 42 and 3/8 will be this cabinet. So now we have our official cabinet sizes. This one's going to be 66 and a quarter. This will be 42 and 3/8. And we label this as plan view. These cabinets will be paint grade with a Sierra door with a number 20 inside edge detail. Here's our door. Here's our door detail, the number 20, ordered from our door fabricator, Caldor. There's such a variety of all these inside edge details. It's one thing if we were only doing shaker doors, you know, or one set door, but there's such a variety of preferences. When people order custom cabinets, they want theirs to be a little different than everyone else's. So part of that individuality comes at a cost in that you have to have different cutters for every single door. So with a business mindset, it's much more practical to outsource our doors to keep up with production and also offer the variety that we're able to offer without having to buy 100 different cutter heads for the shaper or for the routers. Anyway, and then this particular door has what's called a 3/8 F panel, where it's thicker. It's MDF, but it's thicker than the 1/4 inch. But yeah, they make a good product. Caldor. So once we have this plan view squared away, by the way, we do want to note the ceiling height is 106 and a half. So we're going to do 106-inch cab height. So then the elevations. And this one, we're going to make it exactly 66 and a quarter. This other one, I'll show you when we draw that. We're going to go a little long on this face frame so that it can tuck behind, so that can butt into it, just so this is clean at the face. Because this is all you're going to see here is the face. You know, you'll not see back into that dead corner. I start with a little taller than the ruler itself, who's at this scale. Basically, you have 0 to 12 inches, which that equals 8 feet. And the 1.5 inch scale, 12 inches is 8 feet. So to go a little beyond 106, you're at 96, 98, 100, 102, 4, 6, because it's all 2-inch increments per block. See, this grid paper is 1/4 inch grids, so every 1/4 inch is 2 inches. Let's take a look at some of these notes. That's how, and some of these notes on here will help with the desired breakdown, because if a designer already has a vision, then I'm not exactly going to come along and just make it however I see fit. I got to kind of go in line with what needs to fit within this vision. A lot of this information on these designer drawings are going to be guidelines, because they'll draw them perhaps with modulars in mind. So it'll be maybe 18, 30, 18, something like that, or 32, 36, you know, but then you fit that in within the actual measurements you have. So I'll take the actual size I have, 66 and a quarter is what I have. $66 and a quarter. So 2, and that's butcher block. And total finishes at 36. And then so obviously the cabinet itself will be 34, because we have that 2-inch. And then the bottom is just going to be a recessed toe kit of 4 inches, because it will sit on the finished floor, which is already in there, of 4 there. We do build all of our cabinets using face frames. We are set up to do all face frame construction. So we do mini frames for the Euro frameless look. And then we have standard face frames for standard overlay. And then we have a different sizing we do for flush inset or even bead inset when we add the beading. So there's different sizes of stiles and rails that we'll use on the face frames depending on what application, if it's going to be flush inset, bead inset, overlay, full overlay. So this one is going to be a full overlay, but it's also going to have some open sections. Generally, you don't want to go all the way to the wall with your door or your drawer. So we have a bank of drawers here, and then we have doors above here, because this is going to allow the drawers to clear the door casing. Because see, as we showed here, there is a door here to enter into this little pantry room. And you would not want this drawer to come out and hit the door casing. So you can't have it be right up against the wall. So you always have to think about all those details. For those of you who are experienced cabinet makers who already know all this, and you've been through this a million times, but this is just to show people who have never drawn cabinet plans, learning, and just, it's amazing the amount of details that seem simple in hindsight, but they're easy to miss. So anyway, 2 inches against the wall. That's kind of a standard because it's just a safe amount for that will clear most casings. We'll then do a 1/2 inch overlay of the door here. So then we'll have 1.5 from the wall to the start of the drawer front. And then we will then put a filler over that, which is flush with the front, just to finish it off with a very flush look, which was what we do for full overlay, which we don't do for standard overlay. That then coming down there. Okay, so then, and then likewise on the other side, we will do a 2 inch because that keeps it symmetrical, but also because we have the other cabinet that's coming, because we have to think about the drawer fronts on this side have handles, and we don't want the drawers here to come out and hit. If the handles are sticking out here, we don't want these coming out and hitting the handle. Now I'm drawing the top and the bottom rail. As a standard, we do 1.5 inches for the top and the bottom. Although, now that I'm thinking about it, we want to actually make this less in this scenario, because normally we would try to allow some room for the countertop overhang. A standard situation would be you'd have a 5/8 subtop and then 3/4 stone, and then you'd have a mitered edge overlapping, and so we'd have to leave room on the face frame for that to overlap. In this case, it's a solid butcher block 2 inches, so none of this is going to be overlapped. So we actually just want to make that, let's see. So since we have no counter overhang, we'll just make this 1 inch. And then we'll have a 3/4 overlay, and then I'll just create a 1/4 inch gap between the bottom of the countertop and the drawer front. So 66.25 minus 2 minus 2.5 is 2.5 here. 66.25 minus 2 minus 2.5, 61 3/4. So that's our inside top rail, 61 3/4. And then we're gonna have 2 rails so we'll have a drawer bank, and then a middle section. And with the center rails, or I guess they're center stiles, are 1.25 inches we do standard, so that you do a 1/2 inch and 1/2 inch overlay, and you have a 1/4 inch gap in the middle. So we do standard 1/4 inch gaps. So that's why, again, I did the 1/4 inch gap up here, and then we'll do 1/4 inch gaps between the doors. So then we'll have 61 3/4 minus 2.5 minus 17 leaves us with 25. Yeah, that's not quite right. So we'll do 16 and 16. So we'll do 16 and 16. That doesn't do, it's not right. All right. The happy little accident here. It's not so happy. Little sidetracked by filming. It's not normal for me to be talking and thinking about all the camera angles as I'm drawing. This is, I just scaled that out wrong. 66 1/4 actually is 64, 66. This actually goes out to here. I knew something wasn't scaling out right. Now we're back on track here. Just like that. The numbers were all right, but it wasn't looking to scale. So the numbers still added up. That's really what matters at the end of the day. But just to get a visual, it's good for it to be to scale. So we have our 1 inch here. Okay, there we go. Now that looks appropriate. So what do we have here? So we have 61 3/4 minus 2.5, which is inch and a quarter, equals 59 1/4 minus 16, and we have 27 1/4. So that's what we're gonna do here. We're gonna have 16 for this drawer bank and 27 1/4 for that one, that space. And this is going to be a pair of doors. And usually I'll just kind of just throw on some handles just to kind of get a visual, even though this may not be the exact handles that they chose. And then we'd have the drawer breakdown. Bank of drawers here. You just throw them in wherever you want, you know, whatever feels right. No, actually. All right, so there we have our drawers. And then we need to decide what the appropriate breakdown in the drawer height is going to be. 34 is our total height, so then we have 30 as our face frame. I should go back to, you know, the breakdown of this face frame really quick. So we have 30 as the height. The reason we took 1.5 inches for the bottom is because we have a 3/4 inch cabinet platform here, and then we're gonna have 3/4 inch underneath. And we do that standard so people can put, you know, kind of LED tape lighting in the toe kick, which is something people often do. So we always just have a standard that we put it this way in case they wanna do that. The top is determined by the type of countertop, top rail. Since this one is a butcher block and does not have any sort of overhang, we're just doing a 1 inch for across the top. The 2 on the sides so that the drawer will clear the door casing and also the handle on the perpendicular wall of cabinets. So 2, we're gonna do 2.5 here, give it a little extra for those handles. I believe they're gonna be 1.25 inches. That's a standard handle size we come across. These are all 1.25 inches in between. So then we have 30 minus 1 minus 1.5. So that means we have 27.5 inside, and then we break that down here. So we do our standard top drawers at 5.5 opening, because that leaves us with a 4.5 inside drawer height, which is standard for, you know, typical top drawer in a kitchen is going to be about that. So that's our standard there. So we'll do 2 at 5.5. And then whatever's left over, we'll divide that by 2 to make these a little bit bigger, hopefully. Minus 11, 2, yeah, that's going to be then 6 3/8 and 6 3/8. So that is our breakdown there. So these are our drawers, and this is 16 wide. And this cabinet, again, based on our plan view, so that here is that, the lower section of that. So it's starting to come together. And then we're just gonna have adjustable shelves inside this compartment behind these doors. And then these are just gonna be drawers. All right, so then we label this 16 inches deep. Again, this is really not meant to look like the most beautiful thing. It's for our build. It's for our cut sheets, our parts lists. So off of this, we will then take this and we'll start ripping up these face frames. So you will rip up 2 inches by 30. This will be 1 inch by 61 3/4, 1.5 by 60 3/4. So as a guide to put the face frames together. So this is all a build plan. So then we need to remind ourselves, okay, this is 16 inches deep for when we go to rip up the box parts, the cabinet carcass pieces, which we build out of 3/4 inch maple plywood. With this information, 16 deep, we would rip them at 15 deep. The reason for that is because we have, so looking at the breakdown of, we have the face frame, the box, and then we'll have 1/4 inch plywood for the back. So there's the 1/4 ply. This would be our 15, and then this would be our 3/4 face frame, which would be a total 16 inch depth. So that's the breakdown of how we do that. We also label unfinished or finished. So we know that that is just going up against a wall, UF, unfinished. All right, so to continue right along, carry this down like that. Total height in the room, 106. 106 minus 36, what do we have? 70. So there we go, 70. And out of that 70, you would do a 4-inch top rail for crown. It changes depending on if there's an abnormal size crown, but for this, we're just doing standard. We're then going to line up like that. So then we have our open sections and our little cubbies here. 8, 9 1/4. Bam. 8, 9 1/4. And then we have 12. So we'll have 9 1/4. 9 1/4. And piece, because up here has doors, and 2 will come together 1 and 1, making a 2 finished. These doors will be a full overlay coming down to the bottom of that rail, divider coming out, these shelves, and also these side walls here. So here we'll have 2, 2, 2, 2. That'll go with the 2 here, and we'll go back to 2.5 up here, because that's for the doors and the drawers. This has no doors, so I would rather keep the symmetry of everything being 2 here. So for here, we'll just do 1 door, and then pair of doors. And these are going to actually have some pull-down units inside here that are on these mechanized arms that come down by Rev-A-Shelf. So I've mentioned Rev-A-Shelf numerous times, and 2 is 20.5 will be what this open section is. Leaves 25 3/4. I think what I'm going to do is make that 26. Again, sometimes you just make these little adjustments. And then we're going to shrink that to 15 7/8. And there we go. It all adds up to 66 1/4. And then it's going to have a wire mesh on the inside of it. So that kind of just illustrates. You don't have to draw it for all of them. Again, it's just to remind myself to order these as a cut for glass door. Glass. Even though it will not be glass, it will be this mesh. Is 16 inches deep. But there you go. I mean, this is something that's now ready to build. These will be painted. This is going to be a walnut butcher block in between there, like that. All right, so then we go over to cabinet 2. So there we have this here. All the information is there. Pencil's starting to get kind of dull, which is why it's always good to have a backup pencil. Look at that. You got to think ahead. This cabinet at 42 3/8 wide. We're actually going to make it 43 3/8, an extra inch that's going to tuck behind the other one, just so the other face frame has something to butt into. Very close to 42.5, but not quite. Just shy, an 1/8 inch shy of 42.5. But you got to be exact. This is what it is. You can't change that. So don't try. 106 is the height. 42 3/8. So this will be, instead of a 2.5, we're going to do 3.5. So there's our toe kick at 106. So then this is actually going to be 102 to the 4-inch toe kick. We'll label both sides UF, like I said before, unfinished. This toe kick we will actually run a little long, because that goes into the toe kick of this other one. We want that same countertop line up here. So that countertop is actually gonna run straight through, so it'll be built in multiple cabinets. And we have 2, and that's the butcher block. And then we'll have our 1-inch rail. And then we'll just break down the drawers in the same way we did on the other one. So they all line up. Just like that. So then we have 5.5, 5.5, 6 3/8, 6 3/8. In this scenario, we will have doors here, as where we don't here, but we do want this line to line up. Do a rail there. And then we'll just have pair of doors, pair of doors, pair of doors. Just like that.
We don't make mistakes. We have happy accidents.